In the same way a frog in a pot of water that's slowly getting hotter doesn't jump out until it's boiling, I think we've all noticed a change in culture and media over the last decade that's hard to articulate because it's been incremental. But suddenly we look around and everything's different. I'm sure you've heard a lot of people try to pitch ways to understand this change. Is it the deep state? Is it the Jews? People are always blaming the Jews for everything, with names like Zuckerberg and Altman out there. Thank God Tom from MySpace doesn't have the last name Goldstein, or that narrative would be hard to fight. I believe we can understand changes in culture through changes in art, and specifically comedy. And just a small note, I'm not going to be editing a bunch of random B-roll when I'm talking to make this video more engaging with a bunch of weird sound effects. I'm just going to trust the viewer I attract has the longer attention span, hopefully. Doing comedy for over a decade and now living in Austin, Texas, I believe I have a good vantage point to realize the changes in stand-up comedy and culture. So this video is about modern stand-up comedy and the rise of something I call vibe comedy.
The chances of your understanding anything going on in your own time are very small, except through the means or media provided by artists.
We'll get to exactly what this is later. First, let's go into some history and how stand-up became chaotic. Social media was already in full swing, or so we thought, when a little startup known as the Chinese Communist Party released a program called TikTok, a new head of the social media hydra. Attention spans were short, they got shorter. Videos were short, they got shorter. Now we're up to 2.3 hours average on social media per day and 7.1 hours on screens. That's almost half of our waking life. After TikTok made videos shorter, everyone else followed suit. Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, even LinkedIn. If you're doom scrolling LinkedIn, you're truly lost. When I started stand-up, it was uncommon to even release clips on the internet. Everyone just saved up all the material to release in a special. Now, it's quantity over quality, because you never know what's going to hit on the internet. In fact, something that doesn't even do well in the room might go mega viral online. If you have a joke about motherhood that not that many people can connect with, but the algorithm can find all those specific people on #MomTalk, why not just release it and see how it does? A throwaway crowd work interaction about dating red flags might land you selling out theaters. With the TikTokification of comedy, there were two huge consequences. First, it became more important to find a niche. Find out what hits about your identity, and then double down on it when people connect. If you're a gay Arabic comic in a wheelchair, that's 3 different communities you can connect with. The gay community, the Arab world, the disabled community, or more likely, you can be tokenized by people who are none of those things and just want to laugh at you for being different. Second, stand-up became primarily for consumption by an absent digital audience rather than people in the real world. It became normal for comics to say things like, well, it didn't do that well tonight, but it'll work well online. People started getting more eyeballs on them than ever. But how to monetize all that attention? Time to start a podcast. After COVID hit, people were desperate for more content, and stand-up was cheap to produce and fit the bill. But with hypersaturation came fatigue. People were tired of the predictability of stand-up. Stand-up comics had a problem. Good jokes are hard to write and take a lot of time. If people have seen your joke online before they see you on a tour or watch your special, it's going to kind of lose its punch. So how do people get, oh yeah, I'll just ask people in the front row if they're dating. Oh, it's a man and a woman together? Oh, you guys aren't dating? This guy's in the friend zone. I bet he wants to be in the bone zone. Million like, billion like. Crowd work used to be a rarity. It was kind of the cherry on top. It used to be the rich swirl fudge in a Haagen-Dazs. Now comedy is Ben and Jerry's. It's just nothing but brownies and fudge. It's more of crowd work with a side of jokes. Lack of structure and predictability provided intrigue. So the 4 horsemen of the comedy apocalypse wrote in: crowd work, characters, roasting, and riffing. With a new format came new megastars. Andrew Schultz made it popular to release clips instead of full stand-up specials, and Matt Rife started touring theaters off of crowd work. I'm sure this has been said before, but it's just too perfect. I present to you the definition of rice. Of common occurrence, widespread. Male chauvinism was rife in medicine in those days. Also worth mentioning is that rife almost sounds like riff, and Matt is Hebrew for gift from God, from the crowd work comedian who's famously handsome. So language is beautiful. Kill Tony's been around over a decade, but it's achieved recent global mega success because I believe it combines all the elements that people were looking for. Lack of predictability, stakes, characters, roasting, crowd work, riffing. You never know what you're gonna get when you tune in, but you know it's not gonna be the same as a normal stand-up set. I believe a media theory can help us understand these changes, from Marshall McLuhan back in 1967, who predicted that we'd all work from home one day. He'd also predicted the end of traffic, so not perfect, but the guy was pretty ahead of his time. In Marshall McLuhan's book, Understanding Media, he coined the famous phrase, "the medium is the message." All this means is that people incorrectly focus on the content of a new type of media rather than how it restructures society around us. For instance, social media, the message of that isn't disinformation, like the content it carries. The message of social media would be that it alienates us from one another. That's how it changes society. That's how it changes how we relate to each other. That's how it changes how we relate to ourselves, through isolation and alienation. McLuhan also pointed out that you can understand the changes occurring in the background through art.
My own way of testing the sorts of effects that any new form is likely to have on us is to keep a sharp lookout on changing styles in the arts. The artist is always a jump ahead of technology and is engaged really in giving you images of what sort of effects it's likely to have upon you later on.
I think stand-up comedy fits the bill. The new media landscape catalyzed what I call vibe comedy. Programmers utilizing ChatGPT call it vibe programming. I call the new type of comedy vibe comedy because comics are just going with the vibe. It's far more casual, it's based on feel, it emphasizes personality and improvisation. It brings people in on the process to make them feel more connected, like they're hanging out with you.
Advertising agencies have always been mystified as to why is the storyboard more effective than the final product. And their answer to that is very important. It is that the incomplete form allows the audience more participation than the completed form.
Go watch Louis C.K.'s specials and tell me how many times he does crowd work in them over the last 20 years. Go watch 5 minutes of any new stand-up comic and tell me how many times they're connecting with the crowd. It's been a complete sea change. And I don't think that's a bad or good thing. All it's saying is that people vote for politicians they want to have a beer with, and people like comics they feel like they're hanging out with. It's no accident that they call podcasts best friend simulators. It feels like a hang. Oh yeah, buddy, it's only $5 a month to join our special best friends list. That's not a lot of money, and you wouldn't mind buying a t-shirt while you're here, would you? And hey, as a friend, you wouldn't mind if I tried to get you addicted to nicotine products and sports gambling, would you, pal? Suddenly, everybody cares what clowns have to say. Comedians are front and center in culture. But why? I think it's the same reason people like bangable actors. People want their entertainers to be entertaining. Even for something like when people were getting their COVID news, nobody wanted to listen to some dusty old virologist speak in monotone. We wanted a college dropout. I want to hear him dunk on the libs with a sick burn. That's how I want to get my epidemiology news. I hate to admit it, but a little part of me is excited to hear people's take on bad situations when they happen. When the fires broke out in LA, a little part of me was excited to hear what Tim Dillon had to say on it. News stories provide stakes and lack of predictability, and those are the hallmarks of vibe comedy. Vibe comedy in its best form, I don't even think is a bad thing. I think it's great. However, in its worst form, it's just people sticking a microphone in drunk people's face on the street and doing, what's your body count? There was an old adage that nobody wants to see how the sausage is made, but that's clearly not true with comedy. People like feeling in on the process. A quote that McLuhan uses in his documentary is from the composer John Cage.
Everything we do is music. Everyone is the best seat. Theater takes place all the time, wherever one is. And art simply persuades one that this is the case.
Maybe vibe comedy is a reflection of this. People don't want these perfectly crafted, clever little quips. People want to feel that there's a grand comedy taking place around them at all times, so a comedian's job is just to expose this. So if the medium is a message, what's the message of vibe comedy? I would say it's two things, two different sides of the same coin. First, people want a little control in a chaotic world. Every day there's something new in the news. We're invading Iran, something horrible is happening. People like comics because laughing is a sense of understanding. Being able to expose the comedy in something is a way to make sense of what's senseless. People like feeling that there's someone at the helm, someone in control. And this is the same sense you get when you even watch a crowd work clip where a heckler yells something out and the comedian is able to land back on their feet every time. That's a satisfying thing to watch, the feeling that there's someone out there who never gets knocked off balance. Number two is people conversely want a little bit of chaos in a world that's increasingly predictable. Every day, we're a little bit more the same. We're all behind these algorithms hours a day. People like a little jolt of energy, a little bit of chaos to bring them out of that. In the same way, reality TV was a response to scripted television and laugh track sitcoms, I would argue vibe comedy is a response to the modern media landscape. I would argue the true message of vibe comedy and social media and AI is that media can give you whatever you need. Whatever it is that you're lacking, it can offer for you, whether that's chaos or control. If you're feeling that things are a little crazy, it'll give you some comfort and predictability. If you need a little chaos, it'll give you that too in the form of people fighting and screaming on the internet. The message of social media and vibe comedy is that whatever you need, you can get it from media. You don't have to get it in the real world. Whatever it is you're buying, it's selling. That's what it wants you to believe. You don't go strike up a conversation with a Vietnam vet at your local dive bar. Just boot up your computer and scroll until you find something crazy. Just keep doom scrolling. This is similar to dating because it's a chicken or the egg problem. Are people less willing to approach people in real life because they know there's dating apps, or do dating apps exist because people are less willing to approach people in real life? I would argue that it's a little bit of both, but they go hand in hand. It's creating the void that it's filling. It simultaneously both creates separation and then provides connection. It alienates you and then offers a way to be seen. I don't think this is entirely bad by any means, and that's the danger. The bad goes hand in hand with the very obvious good that it offers. I remember working a terrible office job and commuting, and podcasts saved my life because I would have been bored to tears otherwise. However, if you solely rely on that for connection and entertainment, you stop knowing how to find that in your own real life and you become reliant on it. And that's kind of the point.
The effect of the electric revolution is to create once more an involvement that is total.
We are unaware of the dangers of not understanding the need for involvement.
The dangers are total.
Use it kind of as a diagnostic tool, as your check engine light, if you will. Because if you find yourself going back to media for a specific thing, it's probably a thing you're lacking in your real life. If you're going back for comfort, maybe you're lacking comfort in your everyday life and you need to reach out to friends. If you're trying to find some chaos, maybe you need to mix things up in your real life and do something unexpected. Next time you're feeling however you're feeling, whether it's lonely or stressed or bored, feel that lack, feel that void, and feel how you fill it with media, and just go try to find that in the real world occasionally. If you find yourself listening to a podcast with a fat guy with a contagious laugh, it means we need our own fat guy with a contagious laugh in our life. Everybody needs a fat guy with a contagious laugh in their life.
Artists are people who enjoy living in the present.
And I think that's ultimately the answer. If the message of vibe comedy and social media is that it can offer you whatever you're lacking in your life, just be sure to be mindful of that and try to seek it out in your real life instead. It's that simple. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate there's some people out there who are willing to watch a whole video without crazy sound effects and unnecessary B-roll. Let me know your thoughts and comments. I'd love to hear them, honestly. Please like and subscribe. I don't have anything ironic to say about it this time. I would just appreciate it if you did. It'd mean a lot to me. I'm Nikolai Roscoe. Thanks, guys.